let's proceed with the panel discussion for the session 5, which is on AI and quantitative medicine. May I ask the panelists please to step forward and join me here on the stage. If I may ask all of you to kind of take your seat and get ready for a very exhilarating panel discussion here with me, that I would greatly appreciate that. In addition to the speakers you have heard in this session, I would like to warmly welcome Dr. Andrew Babiskin. We can just wave, and yes, from OGD, FDA. Then Dr. Bhagwant Rege. He's also from OPQ, actually, from FDA. And then Dr. Zhen, also from OGD, FDA. So we have this star-studded panel, and what we're going to do is the following. I have kind of planned 3 themes. Dr. Matabushi and I planned for 3 themes, which are going to be focused on the application of AI in quantitative medicine from in a pharmaceutical company realm, then in the role of regulatory agencies, and then the role of academicians. So the questions are going to be peppered in. Colleague here, Dr. Gong, who is going to help us with streamlining questions from the online attendees. So to start with, I would like to ask, from a pharmaceutical company point of view, what questions do you consider AI quantitative medicine, mainly AI here, would answer that either were not possible to be answered before, or it could enhance the answer in quality or in terms of efficiency? So if we can start with that, please. Don't you all speak at the same time. What questions would you, it is open for everybody. Yes, Dr. Rege.
So I think the questions that can be answered, I don't think there are any kind of questions that were impossible to answer before. At least I'm coming from small molecule perspective. But I think you can certainly speed up and make it more efficient, especially in generic space where speed is paramount importance. AI, ML thrives on large data sets, and a lot of pharmaceutical companies already have these large data sets available from their historical information. There are thousands of ANDAs already approved with different APIs of different physicochemical properties, different excipients, different dissolution methods. All of them can be combined to probably select formulations. AI can help select formulations with the greatest probability of success in terms of achieving bioequivalence, excipient drug interactions, stability. All of that can be probably be sped up with AI and machine learning.
So if I understand what you're saying correctly, what you're saying is this can be used during development.
During development,
yes, yeah. Not necessarily engaging with a regulatory authority per se.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I thought you asked from pharmaceutical company perspective.
Yeah,
so I was,
yes.
Yeah. So in terms of, yeah, the development speed could be increased, and the time to regulatory agency could be decreased.
But what if I'm going to play a generic company now? So I don't have that kind of a database that FDA has. So where would I build these models from?
A lot of this information is also publicly available. You know what drugs are available in which dosage forms. The excipient list is part of the label. the dissolution methods database is available in public domain. So yes, probably it will take some investment. I'm not sure how that is exactly going to work. Maybe larger companies will have that sort of bandwidth. But again, yeah.
Any other thoughts on this? Dr.
Yeah,
Zhang?
so yeah, my comments is in the same line as Dr. Rege just mentioned. So yeah, if you can build, so in bioequivalence submissions, we often see field B studies. So when we dig into what caused this field B studies, one main reason is that the applicants underestimated the within subject variability. So that's why their sample size is smaller. So sometimes it's just two, if they add 2 or 3 more subjects, they will get a pass study. So, but in public domain, so this within subject variability sometimes is not available. So if we can use machine learning, just like Dr. Rege mentioned, if you can use machine learning to build the connection between in vitro, like physical chemical properties of API or drug product to the in vivo performance, like Cmax variability within subject variability, then if we can build a reliable connection, then applicants can use that reliable connection to use their to use a physical chemical property to predict within subject variability instead of just take a wide guess, and it could potentially increase the chance to have a successful B study.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Dr. Gong, I will switch to you for a question.
Oh, Joga,
That's why.
may I also
yes,
adding
sorry.
a little bit
Dr.
about, I think based on my understanding, you're asking about what could be the new paradigms of using AI in drug development, which was not possible before, right?
Correct.
Okay, so generally speaking, like I also put into AI application to 2 buckets. One is to leverage AI machine learning to do a task usually done by humans, but now we can use AI to do it maybe like faster, more efficiently, and potentially sometimes in some occasions better. But there's also new paradigms that were previously not possible before. And for this, I think at least I can think about 2 features of AI that it can give it advantages to do things that were not possible before. One type is AI, because of its capability of handling like high dimensional data. Therefore, it could screen through a lot of like baseline covariates, et cetera, therefore help us doing precision medicine better, like screening through all the baseline factors and identify what are the factors or combination of factors that can impact drug response, including both safety and efficacy. And another part is because AI, compared to traditional, for example, statistical modeling or pharmacometric modeling, it has the capability of handling new type of data, for example, medical imaging data. So it gives us some kind of paradigm that probably was previously unimaginable. For example, I've seen applications sponsor propose to use convolutional neural network to look at medical imaging data and baseline and predict what will be the patient's prognosis or treatment response. And this is by leveraging machine learning to identify features that are not identifiable or patterns that cannot be seen by human eyes. So I think those kind of like breakthroughs are kind of belong to the category you mentioned.
Excellent point.
I'd like to add,
Oh, please.
you're probably going
Dr.
to say the same thing I am, but I'll let you go first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, just following on from my presentation earlier, I was showing predictions of what's called direct numerical simulation. And for anyone who doesn't know CFD, this is sort of like the holy grail of CFD, in that nobody does it because it takes so long. In that a common situation might take years to simulate. But if you can speed up the simulation time by 80-fold, maybe this is something that becomes possible and makes it more accurate and also makes it more accessible, because to run CFD with a pharmaceutical company, you need to hire an expert and have the money to pay for the license and the computer. So it can make it more accessible to firms that maybe are not as large.
Dr. Babiskin?
Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
all right. Dr. Gong.
So I have a few questions from online. So the first one is for small pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies who have less data compared to large companies, their AI models and libraries will naturally be less developed. Can the panel provide some advice? How can these smaller companies remain competitive without having such extensive database? Are there any viable alternative strategies they could pursue?
I can partially answer this. So from machine learning perspective, not necessarily AI, there were several strong papers published saying that, for example, ADMET models showing performance not better than industry models, but comparable. So in this sense, using open data like Campbell, PubChem, etc., still gives you a competitive angle, or because this data is open.
Any other thoughts from panel members?
I think it also depends on the question you want to answer or the context of use. Because for some of the scientific questions, even the foundation models can be very helpful. It doesn't require much training. But it all depends on what you want to do. There are so many different ways of leveraging AI.
So if it's okay, I would like to now open a question from the floor. There is a sweepstakes on your table for best question posed.
This is a question for Vladmir. So Vladmir, when you present, you show so many tools you use to do your PBPK modeling, and all the tool and the software you use, I feel I need to use the AI to consolidate them. So just wondering, for the people, for the small company, try to utilize the AI tool now. What's the first step? Although I know we need to ask a question first, but how do you evaluate what's the good AI tool to use from the beginning? Yeah. Thank
you. So every AI, so first you start with the defining what is the question and compiling a small benchmark. What is the question? What is the answer you expect? Of course, like basing it on the real data, real experience, and seeing how AI model benchmark. So if it's like you have all kind of AI evaluation frameworks, they're free, they are accessible through Hub and related. So even the OpenAI itself, for example, have evaluation section when you can collect and create the question answers.
Okay. Any other? Yeah, Dr. Subbaswamy.
I would just add that where you have workflows or processes, now it's becoming common to be able to define, this notion of agents. And so if you have a process that you want to try and partially or completely automate, that's a way that allows you to better chain together. We see these examples of these somewhat complex looking pipelines. And so this notion of developing new agent-based ways of using AI in order to accomplish those is like another possible thing to look at.
Dr. Tata and Dr. Fang.
Go ahead.
And after that, I would like to go back to my question. Go ahead.
So I had the chance to speak with many of the pharmacometricians in the past few days in the field. I was sharing with them, we had this wonderful session, AI and quantitative medicine. So the common theme I heard from them is, for us, we were trained in the modeling simulation entire human process. And I would like to hear some inputs from the panel members, or may give them some people have been in the field for many years, some inputs like how we can transition from this entire human process to human in the loop or in the future agentic systems. And then the follow-up question is, what governance should we put in place to ensure people feel comfortable about this transition. Thank you.
Dr. Liang Zhang, if we can entice you.
Sure, I can share a little bit. I do from different sources, also by attending conferences, not sure if in ACCP. So I think currently in the field of pharmacometrics or clinical pharmacology, the conventional area. Also, I personally feel the same, the terms of algorithm, there's not much room left for AI to further improve. I think the current method is mainly benefits mainly using AI to automate things on what we have been doing. I think that will be the near future. In my knowledge, there are several companies, including yours, probably thinking about that way. The using multi-agentic AI to automate the current software, everything. Even the definition of software will be different in the near future. It's the thing you are installing today. In the 2-3 years, even the interface will look different. I feel that's coming. I also personally involved in some of the effort. I have a CDA in place. I cannot talk more, but I think it's going to happen in the near future.
Any other thoughts from the panel? Dr. Babiskin?
Yeah. So I think that the role of AI in the traditional pharmacometrics modeling, like POP-PK, PBK, is going to augment. I look at it like you said it. There's an artistry to it already, or maybe the analogy is that we're master chess players and we're playing on one board trying to build this best model. But with AI tools, maybe we can play 5-10 games at once because it's going to automate. I think a lot of us have a process and we know what we're going to do, and we're good at it, but it's tedious. But if we're able to train something to do that for us, get rid of tedious work, we can more focus on what really makes us, pharmacometricians. I mean, with a lot of the software, you can give it to high school students. They can plug and play and get simulations, but they don't know what they're doing. That's what we understand, what those parameters are, what the processes are. So I think that it only can serve to quicken what we do, run even more simulations that we could before. I mean, I even go back to the CFD example. We apply these techniques because it's actually not a big data problem. We actually have very limited data. This is where mechanistic models can play an important role. But then when we run these massive simulations, then it actually becomes a big data problem. So as we're able to quicken it and do more, we're going to get even more and more data. And now we're going to need tools to even how to make sense of that, because now that would be even hard for a human. So it's different. So AI is going to kind of intersect in many different ways, but I still think at the heart of it, knowing how to do the CFD modeling and what's the actual physical and chemical process, if there are thermodynamic processes in there, you're not going to lose that. And there's not going to be an AI model that can really replicate that unless you train it on the history of all science in the area. Quite a large task.
So very, very important points, both of you. And my own perspective on this question is that while we can think about, as Dr. Liang Zhang alluded to, that you can speed up the operations using agentic AI, that's great, but that's still operational. But like you're alluding to, Dr. Babiskin, the point is that to augment what we have already known and not to replace per se. So in my own experience, in fact, AI models, AI, ML or deep learning actually cannot answer the question directly at all. And we have worked on multiple examples, studies ourselves. They will help, that approach helps you to get to the answer sooner. But at that point, you still have to go over to statistical or scientific modeling, because you can use ML and deep learning and other techniques to identify, let us say, biomarkers, which are important for a clinical endpoint. But without understanding, this is what probably you were saying too, Dr. Babiskin, without understanding if that biomarker has some role in the causal pathway, and if so, how is it related? That AI models are not going to tell you. So it is going to be a combination of these different approaches, and definitely not a replacement, in my opinion. Dr. Tada?
Thank you. I have a question from the digital twins presentation. That's an excellent presentation where there are certain interpretations not possible by the quantitative measures like pharmacokinetics, like MRI or D-scores in the inflammation and that kind of clinical markers. Often we do efficacy trials in a blinded manner, followed by open label extension studies. Can you envision taking the data from the blinded study, portion of the study, and augment that with this digital twin model and bypass the need for the open label extension? I hope I asked the question in a clear manner.
We'll let the panel speak.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. And, I myself have thought that, I talked about you have your sort of real physical experiment informing your digital model. And in this way, if you think of your digital model as a simulator, if you have access to, you can use your blinded study, right, in order to get some notion of safety, efficacy, and use that to prime your ability to make use of maybe historical data in order to emulate what different conditions will be like, in real world practice. And so I think like that's the connection between the two is if, for example, you're talking about, say, a new drug or something, you need that initial data in order to inform your simulations in those new settings, right? So I think that's kind of the way that you can link these two pieces and leverage, for example, historical real world data in order to generate new insights in that open world scenario.
So is that a high likelihood that you can get the similar data that you get from an open label extension?
I don't know about the likelihood. I think what I'm talking about may be a little bit speculative at this point, but I think with the amount of data available and with growing numbers of companies that are investing in being these sort of data aggregators and vendors that try to match, you come to me with the problem, and then I have, data use agreements that then I'll put together a cohort fit for your purpose. I think that combination, to me, sounds like it can make what you're describing possible.
Thank you.
I'm going to challenge this line of thought here. The data discussion is great, but I think we missed the question of why you need a open label extension. That is for long-term safety. So can I predict based upon the animal studies, which I'm not going to do anymore, and the large database of safety from other drugs and so on, to predict a 1 in 1,000, 1 in 2,000 event, big hairy bad event? I'm not sure if I would be not nervous to use digital twins for the open label. You are trying to learn something you don't know, you have never observed during drug development to happen in that 2 years or whatever that long-term safety period is. So I'm going to push back on that a little bit, but that's my opinion, not FDA's, just a disclaimer.
Thank you.
Joga, I want to say, I agree with you. Also, again, this is my personal opinion, but I probably want to refer you to the FDA draft guidance on the considerations when you use AI. for regulatory decision makings for drugs and biologics is when you do this kind of analysis, you need to think about the model risk, right? You're trying to use AI and simulation to replace an actual clinical trial. If that actual clinical trial, that phase is supposed to give us critical information related to regulatory decision making, and then the model risk is likely to be high. And in order for us to agree with you to use that approach, you have to show us how valid, how credible your approach is, which will involve a lot of validation. So I can imagine it, but I can also imagine there will be a lot of work you need to do before we can accept that approach.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so as I said, I have one question that I canned question for the panel. Can I come back to you once I'm done with that, if it's okay? If it's okay, yeah. So what would be, this is the regulatory bucket, what would be some of the opportunities for generic companies, or we're talking about AI and across the board, so to say, life cycle of a product, to engage with the FDA, to discuss their plans and seek feedback? What would be some opportunities for the pharmaceutical companies to engage with the FDA if especially the agency folks can speak up to that?
Yeah. Sorry, that's a simple one. Especially dealing with quantitative approaches, there's two potential pathways you can go through, especially if you want that direct face-to-face interaction. If you're developing a complex drug product, the product development meeting, pre-ANDA path is always available to you. But then we also have the model integrated evidence pilot program, which is obviously built specifically for these quantitative approaches and is a little bit more accessible for non-complex products as well, but it's also an approach you can consider even as a complex product. The intention of these meetings is that we're going to delve into the actual model-based issues and the implementation challenges you're trying to go through, or you're working through innovative approaches that you want to see how we would receive it. So those are opportunities for the generic side for that face-to-face interaction. Of course, as we mentioned yesterday, is always control correspondences. If you just want a written response back to us, we're always willing to answer questions about modeling in that respect. But I think all these approaches are really still at the forefront of innovation. So that face-to-face interaction, I think, is probably the best way to move forward. That's just my personal advice there.
Yeah.
Oh, one more thing to add. Yeah.
Dr. Frank, yes, please.
So if you are trying to seek some inputs on the AI machine learning approach, for example, independent on any particular drug product, which you actually may not have a direct pathway. So then we actually have the model master file pathway. So we certainly welcome you guys reach out to us utilizing that pathway as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Rege, and then Dr. Liu.
If you're using any novel AI approaches in CMC or manufacturing space, there's emerging technology platform program that's available. So you can, there's guidance available for that also.
Yeah. Dr. Liu, when you say, is there a central location where sponsors can go look at all these, or they have to call you?
Yeah, actually, I would encourage everyone to also look at the draft guidance, because at the end of the draft guidance, it gives you various different mechanisms that you can engage with FDA, including the various mechanisms folks mentioned, and also the DDT qualification program, the critical path innovation program, the emergency drug safety technology meetings, MIDDs, and also various listening sessions held by CEDAR different offices.
Excellent. Yes, Dr. Zhang.
Yeah, so I want to add, so through these pathways, when you submit your request, please include as much information as possible, because so we will do the risk assessment and see the role of this modeling or AI machine learning in the bioequivalence determination from generic side. And so probably in one setting, machine learning or AI is playing a critical role, just like Dr. Liu mentioned. So we need a lot of validation. But for the other side, if you already have sufficient information, like in vitro information to support your questions, then probably we don't need a lot of validation for the model AI or machine learning.
Thank you. So, Dr. Subbaswamy, given your experience with these AI submissions and so on from CDRH, what should the sponsor submit if there have you, let's say I'm a sponsor, I used AI to do some analysis and I'm asking to some agreement with the FDA on something. What files do I submit to the FDA for review?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've heard people talk about the importance of context of use. So, you know, you need to have a very clearly defined what is it that you're using the model for. So define the task, and then essentially you're now making a claim about what you're able to do with the model. And so then in terms of evidence for supporting that claim, you need to think about the data. Do you have the data to answer this question? And I've heard the term data hygiene used here, but you know, in devices, there's this growing space of developing data, what's known as data de-risking plans, where you're really understanding where's the data coming from, and are you going through sort of all of the best practices for making sure that there's no leak between training and test and all these sorts of things. It's very important in order to build sort of trust and confidence that you've done everything correctly. Then there's the details of you know, what exactly it is you did, your methodology, and obviously at the end of the day, you care about your validation practices and data. And so your ability to show that, again, obviously this all depends at the end of the day on your context of use, but your validation needs to have been set up in such a way that it definitively and like demonstrably proves that it fulfills that context that you're intending to use it in. So I mean, that's a kind of high level example, but you know, some of the specifics obviously will depend on what you're doing. And I give that as a general, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have 2 questions from the floor, and then we'll go to Dr. Gong if she has any other questions online. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Gobburu. I think this is a wonderful workshop. After 2 days of discussion, we have lots of new ideas coming out. And my question is kind of general, and which is also similar to previous discussion, but I'd like to hear more thoughts from the panels. Considering a time frame of 3 to 5 years after 2 days discussion, what is the single most important direction you think that the whole community should move forward to, and what is the single most biggest barrier that stays forward? And is that, for example, the continual improvement of the general large language model performance, or is that because lots of data are there, but it's not really combined with the large language models? For example, FDA has a lot of data, but it's distributed everywhere. You need to actually search, and it takes lots of efforts. So is that we need to combine the domain knowledge, domain data with the large language models, or is that we need to define, like the panel said, like to define very good use of case and define your context of use that could create real values? Or regarding about the barrier, is that we don't have enough resources?
I think if they are as human as I am, they will lose track of all the questions they're posing. I hear 2 questions.
Yeah.
So one is, what's the one thing that will change in the next 10 years?
The single most important direction that
Well, let's pause right there.
Yeah.
And then let's see if people have any reactions to that. It's a loaded question. Go ahead.
I think from my perspective, I see it as just trying these things out. I mean, so I come from a mechanistic modeling background. I'm not really an AI modeler, but I think that, like someone said in the earlier session today, just start with maybe lower risk applications, try those, see how they work, and keep building on it. Because without trying it, we don't know what they do. So from my perspective, that's how I see it.
And your second question was, what should we look out for?
The barrier, is that data or is that the resource or is that regulation? I think all of these are barriers, but which one do you think the most important?
Okay, we're taking bets here.
I
Go
don't know
ahead.
if it's more slippery, but one of the things is
your thought about it.
a lot of data tends to be proprietary, right? Different companies own the data. It's not, if all of it was open, we would have so much data to build the model and validate it, but.
Or
Yeah.
just want to hear about your visions in terms of this.
I think I can also chime in.
Yes.
I think people been asking, I see in different conferences, people thinking, AI machine learning, such powerful tool. You have a chemical structure. Can I predict the efficacy, safety? That's been asked a lot, even including the FDA initiative, like for small molecule, can you get away from an animal? The main limitation is the data, as Bhagwant mentioned. There is a proprietary information. So all the tech companies, they have almost all the tech companies, they have a health group. NVIDIA is building tools based on the chemical structure. What will be the docking? What will be the biological function? What will be the toxicity? You can ask them. I'm not saying NVIDIA. I'm asking anyone. Do you have a confidence in what they are predicting? I think it's mainly for protein folding. There is 200 million data, right, available. But one step further, there's no data. In theory, yes, you know the structure, you can predict things down the road. Even you can be more generative. You generate a chemical structure with the intended purpose. Those are just on the book. I think it's mainly limited by data. Even for protein folding, you need currently there are 200 million high quality data available to allow that to happen. I think we need to be, as a scientist, we need to be objective. Sometimes will it be possible for some things we are dreaming of? That's my personal opinion. The bottom answer is data limitation.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes, thanks. Paul Kruin from Amgen. So I wanted to go back to that idea of the open label design, because I think I heard up there that we should be careful about relying on the model, right? And we want to make sure we have enough data to rely on that's real data. But I know a year and a half ago I was at a FDA conference on site that covered AI and clinical design and all these kind of things. And there's a lot of discussion there about using digital twins like we've talked about today, but specifically for rare disease cases, right? So where you have a limited number of patients to fill the trial. So I guess my question is kind of a little bit of a respectful pushback to say, if it's okay in one context to rely on models, to fill the N value for a study with rare disease, why would it not be okay for another kind of trial where we might otherwise have more patients to choose from, but we want to gain efficiency and limit exposure and all these things? That's kind of what I wanted to ask. Yeah.
That's a great question. And I'm really glad you asked about digital twin. For the digital twin story, that's actually, in my personal opinion, I think it's a poster child about how important it is to carefully select the context of use. We did hear a lot of discussion about digital twin applications in drug development. And there are some thoughts, like folks are thinking about using digital twin to replace the placebo arm. And if people want to do that, it's a high-risk scenario. And it's very important to know, actually, your AI model are learned from, for the digital twin, are learned from historical data. We do not know whether the historical data will actually represent the same kind of patterns as compared to the patients in this trial, right? So if you want to directly apply in that scenario, it's going to be a very high bar. And so far, I haven't seen real application on that. But on the contrary, there are some sponsors proposing to use digital twin as prognostic covariates. And then they propose to use covariate adjustment for the efficacy analysis in a randomized controlled trial. So if you use in that context, because it's a prognostic covariate analysis, it's a special type of ANCOVA, therefore it has the type of desired statistical characteristics as if it's applied in a randomized control trial, then it has minimum impact on bias and type and error rate. That's what, from regulatory perspective, what we really cares, right? So in that context, the model risk is not high, it's low probably. And that's why we can apply more flexibility, allowing people to move forward.
Okay. So what I hear is context of use critical.
Yes.
That's been reiterated many times.
Right.
And then this is more or less, it sounds like you're saying it's an extension of benefit risk. Is that another way to say it maybe from a non-modeling perspective? Because I know I think of benefit risk directly as, what's the condition of the patient? We should we expose them to this therapy for the potential, gain? Is this an extension of that by deciding which model to use and whether or not we should, expose future patients in a commercial setting, or is it not that simple?
I think that's one way to look at it. But overall, our philosophy here is more consistent with the credibility framework that stems from VMV40, where we're looking at model risk, and then we think the activities to support the credibility of the model and the documentation of such activities should commensurate to your model risk for that context of use. So that's more like a risk-based approach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Can I chime in?
Last word, go ahead.
Okay, so for that one, I think that's why we call for the methodology validation. There's a Harvard group published a paper. So if you use real-world evidence data to duplicate the randomized clinical studies, they did at least 10 trials, I think maybe at the end of 30 trials. So you just emulate the RCT studies using real-world evidence approach. So how many times can you be aligned? There are still quite some controversial result, I think, for the industry to be able to use digital twin to support new drug R&D or generic drug R&D. There are some methodology development need in terms of research. Again, we got that. Unfortunately, CERSI is being ending, so which I don't think is making sense. The research is still very much warranted in this area.
We're recording all these proceedings. All right. So with that, I think we don't have any more time to unfortunately end this very vibrant discussion. I would like to thank each one of you for taking time and sharing your views here, and the audience for an engaged session. Thank you very much, and Dr. Madhavu. Bye.
So Rob has a conflict, so I will help him deliver the closing remarks. I want to thank you all for participating in this two-day FDA CRCG workshop on modeling and AI in generic drug development and product lifecycle management. I want to thank the CRCG team for coordinating this exceptional event with over 5,000 registrations for virtual attendance and about 100 for in-person participation. This workshop has truly demonstrated the huge interest in AI applications within our field. Thank you to Jim and Anna from the CRCG leadership, as well as Visha, Zhen, and Dana for handling all the logistics and coordination. My sincere appreciation goes to all the session leads who planned each session. Myself, Lucy Fang for session 1 on regulatory perspectives and opportunities. James and Meng for session 2 on AI streamlining workflows. Senthil and Jayanti for session 4 on AI supporting drug development. Joga and Raj for session 5 on AI and quantitative medicine. I also want to thank the FDA staff, Alftheria, Eric, Lalufar, Jayanti, and Raj, who were engaged in planning the small group discussions. I'm also grateful to the DQMM staff who volunteered either as moderators or scribes in the small group discussions. To all our speakers from FDA, EMA, industry, academia, and technology providers, thank you for delivering the excellent presentations that really showcase the current state and future potential of AI in our field. To all our panel members, the discussions on regulatory frameworks, workflow optimization, drug development applications, and quantitative medicine has provided us with a comprehensive view of this rapidly evolving landscape. Most importantly, I want to thank you all for your attendance, both virtual and in person, for your active participation, insightful questions, and engaging discussions. Your diverse perspective have enriched our collective understanding. As we conclude this workshop, I want to leave you all with encouragement about the future of AI in pharmaceutical development. We stand at a pivotal moment where AI is not just a promising technology, but a transformative tool that will reshape how we develop, evaluate, and manage drugs throughout their life cycle. The conversations we have had over these 2 days demonstrate the integration of AI into our regulatory and development process is not a question of if, but how and when. Thank you again for your participation, and we look forward to continuing those important collaborations as we advance AI in generic drug development and product lifecycle management. With that, we will conclude our workshop for the virtual attendees. Thank you.